Margaret Sanger's secret that changed women's lives. Welcome to Memorandum, the podcast where we remember remarkable people whose stories shaped history and continue to inspire us today. I'm Nefertiti, and together we explore the lives, the struggles, and the victories that remind us what it means to leave a legacy. In today's episode, we turn to the extraordinary story of Margaret Sanger, a name that echoes through the history of women's rights, healthcare, and social change. She was a nurse, a writer, and a determined reformer whose voice carried the hope of millions. Before she became a symbol of courage and change, Margaret Higgins Sanger was born in 1879 in Corning, New York, the sixth of 11 children in a working-class Irish Catholic family. Her childhood was shaped by the hardship of poverty and the heavy shadow of her mother's declining health. Her mother endured 18 pregnancies, 11 children born, 7 miscarriages, and passed away at the age of 50. That loss burned into her heart a question that would later define her life. How can women live fully if they cannot control their own bodies? This seed, planted in tragedy, became the root of a revolution. Margaret showed resilience early. She worked as a teacher and then trained as a nurse, driven by a vision to ease suffering. While working as a nurse in New York City's poor neighborhoods, she saw mothers worn down by endless childbirth and illness. These moments transformed her compassion into action. One patient, a young woman named Sadie Sachs, pleaded for advice on how to avoid another pregnancy. Margaret could only whisper, "You must not have another child," knowing real help existed. Weeks later, the young woman died. That memory haunted Margaret and sharpened her mission. In the early 1900s, even talking about birth control was considered illegal under the Comstock laws. Yet Margaret began writing boldly, determined to speak the words others feared. She coined the phrase birth control, a simple term with powerful meaning. Language became her weapon against silence. In 1914, she launched a radical newspaper that spread information about women's health, challenging the boundaries of law and tradition. The government pursued her for distributing information they called obscene. Rather than retreat, Margaret traveled abroad, gathering knowledge and allies. In 1916, she opened a small clinic in Brooklyn, offering advice and contraceptives to women who needed hope. Lines stretched outside, a symbol that women were ready to claim their rights. She was arrested again. Yet her case sparked national debate and ignited a movement larger than any courtroom could contain. Margaret connected with doctors and researchers, encouraging scientific progress in contraception. She believed knowledge and medicine could lift generations. Her lectures across the United States drew crowds of women and men, some skeptical, many inspired. She turned personal conviction into public momentum. She faced opposition from religious leaders, politicians, and even family members. Still, her determination was anchored in her vision of freedom. She carried her message overseas, speaking in Asia and Europe, seeing birth control not just as an American issue, but as a global need. From grassroots organizing grew the foundation that would become Planned Parenthood. an institution that shaped healthcare for millions. She collaborated with Gregory Pincus and Catherine McCormick in developing the first birth control pill, a medical breakthrough that changed history. For Margaret, this work was not only about preventing pregnancy, it was about giving women the chance to pursue education, careers, and health. She lived boldly, unafraid of criticism. Every step forward came with resistance, yet she kept her focus on the women who needed her. Her activism came with costs. Her marriage ended, her reputation was attacked, and she often lived under pressure. Yet she stood firmly in her purpose. By mid-century, women had more control over their lives than any generation before. Margaret's work planted the foundation for modern reproductive rights. Margaret Sanger passed away in 1966, just a year after the Supreme Court declared birth control legal for married couples. She lived long enough to see her dream beginning to unfold. Margaret Sanger's story is not only about birth control, it's about courage, vision, and the refusal to accept a world as it is. She asked difficult questions and offered transformative answers. Her legacy extends across countries and generations. Women today, from the United States to every corner of the world, walk paths of education, opportunity, and health that would have been unimaginable without her work. The lesson we carry from Margaret's journey is clear. Progress is born from resilience, and even when doors close, determination creates new openings. She teaches us that failure is not an ending. It is a lesson that sharpens the way forward. When we remember her, we remember that history is shaped by those who dare to speak the unspoken and who believe one voice can change the world. This has been Memorandum, where we honor the lives that continue to inspire. Thank you for joining me in remembering Margaret Sanger, a woman whose vision reshaped history. If today's story moved you, don't forget to subscribe to Nefertiti, follow the Memorandum podcast, and share this episode with someone who loves inspirational life stories. And remember, tomorrow we bring you another iconic life, another voice that reminds us to live with courage. Stay inspired and stay with us.